Welcome back, everyone. And when you hear that music, you know it's time to enter the dojo. I'm Dustin, the Devy Sensei, and today I'm joined as always by my good friend and my co-host, Chris, the Devy Shifu. Chris, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. It's a great day to talk football. We were chit-chatting pre-show, but I didn't even tell you yet. I actually cut out caffeine last week. So it's been this weird, it was rough for a few days, and I don't know, I got this like weird energy, you know. It's not necessarily like energetic. It's just like I got a weird energy around me, a weird aura. So I'm looking forward to just like seeing where that takes me.
I don't think I could function without caffeine. Like, I literally have a coffee right here because I know I'm going to be up late at night editing this episode. So I don't know how you're doing that, man. But about tonight, man,
yeah.
we are releasing our top 10 wide receiver ranks for the 2026 Dynasty rookie class. And I couldn't be more excited to do that. But Chris, before we jump into that, why don't you talk to the audience a little bit about what we've been working on?
Yeah, we have been a little bit behind as far as putting out weekly episodes, and we apologize for that, but that's because we are leading the charge at Fantasy Sports Advice Network on the rookie guide. And me and Dustin and our good friend Ben and our friend Biggs and our video content director Mike are leading the charge, doing tons and tons of rookie profiles. And we've just been watching a ton of tape, taking a bunch of notes, and we're putting out some good content for you guys here in the future. I believe that it's going to be a $10 price point. We might offer an early bird discount. The plan is to release this prior to the NFL draft, and then we'll do a little update after the draft where we, add in landing spot and how that affects things and yada, yada, yada. So it's been a lot of work, but it's been exciting, and we hope you guys all appreciate us enough to go out there and drop a little bit of dollars our way and listen to our takes, or I guess not listen to our takes, read our takes.
Yeah, so the release for the rookie guide is scheduled for March 9th. So make sure to get into the Devy Dojo Discord because that's going to be the space that you can get in there, and we'll work with those pre-sale options for you. Of course, we're going to get it out before the draft, like Chris mentioned, and then immediately after the draft, right, we're going to send out that next version about how those landing spots can impact you for fantasy. So stay tuned to that. We got some great stuff cooked up, man. And that was kind of the backbone for this show, right? After looking into the all 22, Chris was like, all right, let's put out our rankings as it stands now. And I do just want to mention that just like everything in this process, man, it's fluid, right? These rankings are going to naturally evolve as more film gets watched and as more data comes in. But as of today, this is where we stand on the top 10 wide receivers in the 2026 Dynasty rookie class. So with that said, man, let's get into it.
Yeah, man, it's tough because I've been saying for a while, I really like the wide receivers in this class, and there's a lot of depth there, and it's really a lot's going to move and shake, especially after the actual NFL draft. And I think you'll see a little bit of differences between where we currently stand right now, you and I. Top 10 rookie wide receivers. There on the left, we have you, Dustin. Antonio Williams is your 10th wide receiver, and mine is Chris Bell, who I believe missed the cut for you. Antonio missed the cut for me, and that's exactly what I was just saying. There's a little bit of, dispersion here between the two of us. Why is Antonio Williams your 10th ranked wide receiver?
I wrestled with this one, Chris. Chris Bell was one that I had slotted there, potentially like trying to make the cut here for 10th. But with Antonio Williams, I could not forget what happened last season. And last season, of course, around this time, he was slated to be a first-round pick. Of course, Clemson had the mighty fall this last season. And this season wasn't as good for Antonio Williams. He was kind of dinged up a little bit. But I still remember the talent, Chris. Specifically, I remember that savvy route running that he displays out there. He's got pretty good speed, excellent lateral agility, and really reliable hands. He plays primarily out of the slot. I know some people still tend to ding wide receivers for playing in the slot, but like our good friend Coach Retz said the other day on the FF Dynasty, he said, playing in the slot, you're going to get peppered with those easy button targets. And of course, in full point PPR leagues, that's a fantasy gold mine. So there are questions with him, of course, with his frame. He stands 5'11", maybe 190 pounds. So little wiry frame out there. And he has already had some durability issues. So those are going to be the knocks in his profile. But I mean, I just love the route running Chris, and I think that we tend to overreact sometimes to the current situation and forget to look at the full picture here. And he profiles to me as a guy that really can contribute day one on a team if given the right role.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never been super high on him, but even from prior to the time that we started the dojo, that I'm much more of an analytics guy than a film watching and vibes guy. Although I have adjusted a little bit more to a neutral, 50-50 split as opposed to purely analytics like I was in my younger days. But for me, when you look at a guy with a career yards per route run under 2.0, that's always a bad marker. You want it to be a little bit higher than that. A lot of those guys, they just statistically don't pan out in the NFL. And that's kind of my pause on him, because even in his great season last year, he actually had a better yards per route run this year than he did in 2024. So he was only at 205 in 2024. He's at 227 this year. I get it. I've never really liked what I've seen out of him. I didn't necessarily think that the full picture was there for him as an NFL receiver. And that goes back to even our first episode where I didn't have him on any, I was kind of down on all of the Clemson wide receivers back then. And I expected big things out of all of them this year with Klubnik, but we know how that song and dance goes, right? It wasn't the year for them. So I like him as a potential flyer necessarily, especially if he gets a decent draft capital. But right now, for me, he's kind of off my radar. I get it, though.
Yeah, that's fair. I get it. Like even versus zone coverage this season, he ran a 1.98 yards per route run. A lot better against zone this season. He was at 2.64 yards per route run against that coverage. But again, in the NFL, you definitely want to learn to handle the zone defense, because that's what's really dominating the landscape right now. But talk to me about Chris Bell, Chris, because that's a guy that I had right there for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and to follow up on your last point, I think I saw something like 71% of defenses were zone defenses last year in the NFL. So you're completely right about that. Chris Bell, I mean, I like him obviously because he's got a great first name. Love the guy. But he is a big-bodied receiver. I have made the comparison before for Jeremy Bernard to Debo. I know the popular, take right now is that Chris Bell is this year's Debo. That's the thing that people like to do anymore, is who's this year's Debo. Chris Bell is everybody's mainstream this year's Debo because he is a big body dude. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. He runs a 22-mile-an-hour top speed. That was third in college football this year. So he's not just big. He's also very, very fast. And when you get that size-speed combo, and that's kind of an allusion to another Chris that we're going to talk about a little bit later here, that's just so enticing. An NFL GM is going to bite on that. And it's not like he didn't do it well at the collegiate level. He was a very productive receiver, even playing at Louisville. I like what I see on tape with him, though. He has a great knack for finding the ball. It seems like he is always working his way back towards his quarterback, back towards the ball if he needs to. It seems like, we talk about catch radius. He's got this cerebral catch radius where it's not just what his arms can reach, it's what his entire brain can reach. It seems like he runs to where he believes the ball might be, and that allows him to get involved in more plays. And I like that kind of effort out of a guy. And we always talk about, missed tackles forced as more of like a running back trait. But because this guy's got a big body, it's hard to take him down. And he's one of the leaders in college football in missed tackles forced. And that's going to lead him to be a yak threat in the NFL as well. I think if he gets into the right scheme, he can be used really well. That's the problem with these, big, fast guys. It doesn't sound like it would make sense. But when you are this type of specimen, you can't just go out there and do your thing, right? You have to be schemed in a way that's going to make you the most successful player at the NFL level, especially if you're running in the middle of the field with, linebackers that can absolutely knock your block off. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on where he lands, and that's why he's not quite as high for me. I thought he would be a little bit higher until we started doing this rookie guide stuff, but he's down at 10 for me, but definitely worthy of a top 10 ranking in my book.
You don't have to sell me on Mr. Bell. Before the injury, unfortunately, that he had late in the year, he was a back end projected like the 12th overall pick in our rookie drafts when we were doing those very, very early mock drafts. So you don't have to sell me, man. I really hope that he comes back strong from that injury.
I didn't even mention that, the ACL.
Yeah.
So hopefully, he's going to miss a lot of this offseason stuff.
And that's the only reason really why he was down my rankings, man. Like I wanted to, but with the injury, some of these other guys like Eric McAllister that I have here at 9, digging into his film still for me. So there's still some work to be done. But the hashtag analytic profile for Mr. Eric McAllister is pretty good. 6'3", 205 pounds. So good tall wide receiver out there. He ran a 2.59 yards per route run versus zone and 2.74 yards per route run versus man this season. So you love to see that. I loved what I've seen so far in terms of like his vertical ability. That burst is incredible. He's able to stack corners with ease, and I think he might have the best vertical tracking ability in the class. The ability to look over your shoulder and do things of that nature. He's always finding the soft spot in the zone, presents an easy target for the quarterback. And I think he's a catch point demon, man. He's going to use that size and his physicality to win those battles at the catch point. And from what I've seen, literally in my notes, Chris, I put back shoulder fades are nearly automatic. So love to see that. But I think that he's got a little bit of a limited route tree right now. I've seen primarily slants, post, and go balls from him. So I'm not as deep into the film as you have been. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on him. But man, pretty exciting from analytics standpoint as well.
Yeah, you've summed it up pretty well. Definitely not the greatest route runner. That's not one of his pros for sure. But what I noticed on the film, I completely agree. It seems like those back shoulder fades were just incredible. And I also noticed how great Josh Hoover was at throwing the ball at times this year. Just absolutely maniac highlight throws there. But believe it or not, because I had the same thought as you, his contested catch percentage is not great. It's under 40.
Right.
It's like 37. And that kind of shocks me because the way he goes after the ball feels like he should be able to be better. So I had that as kind of an asterisk where it's like, I know what the numbers say, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to translate, in the long term, because that might be a fluke season or something. I don't know. His contested catch number, I mean, that's his career too. So I don't get it. Somebody's got to get their hands on him coaching wise and say, hey, you're 6'3". There's no reason that you shouldn't be catching at least half of these balls. So I feel like at the NFL, I'm hoping that they can iron that out a little bit better. I think this is one of the guys that has the best chance to sneak into day 2 out of these, lower end prospects, these guys who aren't the big buzzy names. But I definitely like Eric McAllister. And you said it, man, the metrics are just insane. His career yards per route run is 2.86. He has 27 missed tackles forced this year, so tough to bring down with that big body after he gets the catch. 7.4 yak per reception for his career. And a lot of that, I think, isn't just his big body. I think that's his long speed. It seems like he doesn't really slow down once he starts breaking away on those long runs. So I definitely enjoy watching the tape on this guy. The analytical profile is something that all the Twitter heads are going to start salivating over if they haven't already. So he's an interesting one. Ultimately, there's a very high ceiling here, but a lot of it's going to depend on what happens. And, as far as the draft and where he lands, as a lot of these receivers are. And there is some character concerns too. He had a felony charge against him that eventually got dropped, but he was being an idiot before right when he transferred to TCU, before he ever played it down for them, doing some stupid stuff in a Whataburger. And it sounds like, from everything I've read, because I've been doing a deep dive, he was my most recent profile I wrote up. He's a good leader. He's changed his ways. The coaching staff stood by him and they love him. So I'm not necessarily going to knock him too much for the off the field stuff, because everybody makes mistakes, but it is something, it's still a blip that we need to keep on our radar.
Yeah. Some grace has to be given to some these are young men at this point, right? I think we've all made mistakes. I'm always willing to extend some grace unless it becomes like a repeated pattern. Then it's more of an issue for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm looking at Jeremy Bernard there, man. And that's somebody that I know you've been really high on him this entire process. So I'm not going to hog too much of the spotlight, man, but I am a fan of Bernard too. He's another guy that he's in my top 12 right? But he just didn't make the cut for me. So go ahead and talk dirty to me about Mr. Bernard there.
Yeah, I've loved him, and I had him originally a little bit higher than this, but as I was kind of moving and shaking, I mean, it's tough. This last 6 through 10 is kind of like a bit of a tier in its own in a way. A lot of it's going to depend on landing spot, and you'll probably hear me say that 100 more times as I've already done in this episode. But I have been very high on Jeremy Bernard this entire year. I think he's a fantastic football player. I got a lot of respect for the guy. I love the way he plays the game. He plays all over. He could play slot. He could play outside. He played running back a little bit this year. I'm a huge fan of the way he plays his game, and I'm a fan of the fact that he kind of overtook Ryan Williams as the number one go-to dog in that wide receiver room for Ty Simpson in a year when Ty Simpson was having, a fantastic career year, really his only year, but, career year for Ty Simpson where he's getting even first-round buzz at this point. So he was looking at Jeremy Bernard for a reason. Jeremy Bernard just gets open. He's got that clutch gene. He shows up late in the games. That's who Ty Simpson wanted to go to. I really enjoy the guy. I think he's got great yards after the catch ability. But the reason he's at number 9 for me is, in this entire process, I have said I like this guy, but there's not an elite ceiling. And you know me, if you've heard me on the dojo before, I'm always swinging for the fences, which is why my number one guy is my number one guy, as you'll see here in a little bit. I want to go big with some of these picks. And if you're going to spend a first-round pick on a guy, it's got to be a guy with a very, very high ceiling. Jeremy Bernard never had that. I liked him very, very much throughout this entire process, and I think he has one of the highest floors of all these wide receivers, but I don't necessarily believe that he is going to ever be more than like a wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver 3 on your fantasy team. But I think he's got a long career ahead of him. So there's some value in that safety if you're getting him towards the back end of the second round.
We, of course, know for Bama, he was pretty clutch too on third downs. That's who Ty Simpson was looking at. Some clutch fourth down touchdowns as well to win them the game or put them right back into it. So love the pick there. But let's go ahead and move on now to number 8 for us. Oh, man. Okay. So for those who don't know, I haven't seen this list. I haven't seen Chris' list yet. So that's a little lower than what we've seen from KC Concepcion. I have him much higher. So let's go ahead and why don't you start us off with Mr. Concepcion, Chris? I'm interested to hear this.
Yeah, and I get it. And Josh, our boy, the Shinobi here at the dojo, he writes for us on our Substack. Make sure you follow. He has been pushing me to like KC Concepcion, and I feel like when I just take the sum of all parts, right, it feels like this is the bust. There's going to be a bust in every class. There's going to be multiple busts in every class. And I'm just starting to feel like he's the bust for me. So he's a little bit further down my ranks because I don't want to be willing to spend that higher end capital on him, which it feels like right now the consensus is he's going to be a first round pick or borderline first round pick in the NFL draft. And he's somebody who we all need to keep our eyes on. I've just never really been super sold on him. Some of the tape is good. Some of the tape isn't great. There's not enough tools on film for me to want to really buy the hype. His senior year was admittedly good, but his career yards per out run was barely over 2.0, which, as I just mentioned with Antonio Williams, is always something to give me pause. And when we're looking at the sum of all parts, as I mentioned, you want to see the analytical profile match what you're seeing on tape, or you want to see one outweigh the other very much if you're going to jump the guns on one of these players. And for me, there's just not enough there to really get amped up about him. I think that the Texas A&M team was fun to watch this year. I think that they were underrated in a lot of ways, but I think that we've now reached the point where KC Concepcion has jumped the shark.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying here, Chris, but I'm going to push back a little. And I'm going to try not to get on my soapbox here because I know I'm going to talk about him a little later. But I mean, you analytic guys are supposed to like these early breakouts, right? And as a true freshman at NC State, he was a legitimate early breakout. Go ahead and watch that tape. His quarterback went down with a big concussion. Now the next year he's got a true freshman, CJ Bailey, starting for him, right? They didn't really have that chemistry yet. He was used primarily as like this gadgety guy. And then, of course, he makes the transition to Texas A&M. And now you've seen him win outside. So I like his versatility. I think you need to watch a little bit more on him, man. I think he's going to sell you. I think you're not watching some of the right games, but don't worry. I'll put you on. In fact, get into the Discord because in our film room channel, We actually posted some good stuff from him, so make sure you go check that out. But for me, at number 8, I have Mr. Elijah Surratt, and I might be a little lower on him than some others, but I still really like his game. He stands at 6'2", 213 pounds, 824 yards this season en route to a national championship, and he was Fernando Mendoza's red zone weapon. 15 touchdowns this year, Chris, 44 throughout his career. He showed he showed that he has that propensity to run like those goal line fades. He's going to beat you at the catch point, and it's nearly automatic again for him. That's where he's going to make his money in the NFL as well. And I did find it interesting, Chris, that and shout out to Chev for this nugget. Him and Omar Cooper Jr. switched roles. Last season, Omar Cooper was primarily outside, Surratt ran from the slot. This year, it was a lot of Elijah Surratt from the outside. And so they swapped those roles, and man, you really saw it pay big dividends for Indiana this season. I think in terms of weaknesses, I really don't like his release package. I think that it needs a little refinement against those physical press corners if he's going to survive the next level. And of course, the after catch ability, it's mediocre at best. You're never going to see him take like one of those short gains and house it. So he does have some limitations athletically, I think, but he's just a steady type option that I think is going to be a reliable chain mover and then a red zone weapon. And those can survive in the NFL. The, you There's really a need for that type of archetype in the NFL right now, I think.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about another one of those guys very soon, I think. But Surratt for me was the one that I was most pained to leave off my list. There's no spoiler here. He's not coming up on on my higher numbers. I really like the guy. Watching Indiana tape was fun this year. Just the Indiana season was incredible. One of the best. We should be privileged, look back fondly on this 2025 season, because the fact that they did it is just insane. What a team. And they did it with three really good wide receivers. I know you're a Charlie Becker guy yourself. Yeah, Surratt was the guy who I just couldn't quite jam in here because of what you said. There's a little bit of physical limitations, I think, that show up on tape. And I'm sure I'll dive into that a little bit more as I progress in this rookie guide. But not quite my favorite prospect. So I had to leave him off. But I think 8's a great spot for him. And a lot of guys are hyping him up. Go ahead. 15 touchdowns is sweet.
Huh?
Next up, I had Eric McAllister here at number 7, so we don't really need to talk about that. I've given you all of the fun stats and good stuff. Denzel Boston is the guy who I was just alluding to, who is a red zone threat, and I will have him a little bit higher up. I do like Denzel Boston, but why do you have him here at 7?
Yeah, he's just a product of watching other guys, and after watching his film, Chris, I was like, I see a lot of stuff that I like, and I've seen enough for him to know I think he's going to be good at the next level. However, I don't think he's a ready-made, like, going to start immediately and contribute. I think that there's a few glaring holes in his game that's going to prevent that from happening. And really, it's a limited release package. He relies too heavily on the straight line releases and some physicality, which allows press corners to disrupt timing, right? So I think just at the next level, he's going to be facing that coverage a lot more. Washington didn't really face a lot of press man coverage, and it was a soft press, so they're not using the hands at the line to jam you. And I think just he's got to learn, he's got to get a bigger variety of tools in that release package from the limited amounts that I was able to see. But he is not really good. He's a decent route runner out there. He has some head nods and stuff, but I just think it needs a little bit more refinement. But let's talk about the good stuff with Denzel Boston, because he stands at 6'4", 209 pounds. He had 11 touchdowns this season, 76.9 contested catch percentage, Chris. That's, he didn't always get the best separation, but when the ball was put up in the air by Damon Williams, he was going up there and making the play. So you love to see that. He's an intermediate and vertical threat. He's most effective on the outbreaking routes, fades, and posts, where his size and ball skills are going to stress the coverage out there. And you've seen that a number of times. Like, he's just going up there at its highest point and displaying that R at the catch point. And that's what people really fall in love with. But again, against some of the better competition in the Big Ten, like Oregon and some others, you really saw those physical corners really kind of take him out of the game a little bit. So that was a little bit of a red flag for me against the best competition. That's like your best comp to the NFL and the type of coverage that you're going to face. that's when his production dipped, and that's where you were able to see him taken out of the game. So I think he just needs to refine certain aspects of his game, and then I think he's going to be really good. I still really like him. I comped him to Sidney Rice, the old Vikings wide receiver, for a lot of
I
the same
liked
things.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, 6'4", but that lean kind of wiry frame, right? But he's gonna make his money on those contested balls. And if you forgot or if you don't know, go check out some Sidney Rice. And I think that's like a high level comp for Denzel Boston.
We might have some young followers here who don't even know who the hell that is. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
go look him
that's a
up,
great one.
Sidney
Yeah.
Rice.
He was fun to watch. Yeah, I like Denzel a lot. Like I said, he's a little bit higher up on my list. I just love the big, strong man hands, and I've got a soft spot in my heart for these guys who are, not really able to separate so much, but they just go up there and get it. They got that dog in them, which is why I'm stuck with so many Keon Coleman bags. Yeah, it is what it is. I think Denzel's a little bit better than Keon, so that's why I have him a little bit higher up as well. And then here, rounding out our first half of the top 10, you have Omar Cooper Jr. I have Chris Brazzell. Chris Brazzell is a guy who I know you have a little bit higher, and I would love to hear your thoughts on him. But for me, it's all about that size and speed combo. And I know people are always helmet scouting. They're saying, Tennessee wide receivers this, Tennessee wide receivers that. But he had a really, really good year, man. The stats on this guy were fantastic. Analytic wise, he looks like he might be maybe kind of like shoehorned depending on where he lands into a deep threat role at the NFL, and that's what I'm most worried about. I think he does have enough route running ability that he can be more than that. But my biggest fear is that somebody's going to look at what he did this year, draft him, and say, just go out there and run 9 routes. Kind of similar like a Jameson Williams in that sense, where we've seen Jameson Williams grow into a receiver that we kind of knew he could be, but the first couple years he was really more of just like a deep threat / decoy type guy. I'm worried that might happen with Chris Brazzell because I believe that he has more in his package than just running deep. But that's also where the most fun highlights come from, right? Is just go out there, catch the ball. A-Dot is like 18, I think, on him. Was a fun year for him. Love the size speed combo. I'm looking forward to see where he lands because I think he's got the highest range of outcomes, the biggest range of outcomes, I guess. He could be potentially the best receiver in this class if all breaks right for him, and he could be a complete bottomless pit that we're all mad that we drafted him.
I mean, I love Chris Brazzell, and I'm going to talk about him here very soon. But I mean, 6'5", a legitimate 6'5", paired with pretty nuanced route running out there. I mean, he snaps cleanly off his breaks at the top of his stem. He's a really good route runner, man. He's so exciting. I think the biggest knock on him in the community right now is his lack of run blocking. Again, with that wide spacing type of offense that they run, wide receivers aren't asked to go out there and run block, guys. It's about spacing. The concepts are designed to go to this side mostly, and they're just running the defenders out. So that's where learning the mechanics of football really help you in your evaluation of these guys. Can he run block? Yes, he can. It's on his Tulane tape. So I've seen it, so I don't have any questions about that. My biggest knock on him is just simply going to be his size, right? He's 6'5", but 200 pounds. He needs to add more functional mass. He has a really good release package, though. So even against press coverage, he's been able to shoot off, and that's why you see him win as that vertical element in the Tennessee offense there, and why I think he still can succeed at that in the NFL. I've often comped like kind of his trajectory and a little bit of play style to Brian Thomas Jr. He's not nearly as fast as Brian Thomas Jr., but again, tall, kind of wiry frame, typecasted as a vertical threat only. And then, the tape reveals this dude can run legit routes as well. So that's why I kind of see him in that range. I think he's a fringe back end NFL draft first round pick. And I think he's going to be a guy that'll get steamed up later. But yeah, very, very excited about him for sure.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think there's a good shot of him going in the first round, and I'm looking forward to that. Omar Cooper is the perfect transition here because you have him at 6 and I have him at 5. I love Omar Cooper. The more I watch him, the more excited I get about him, man. I think part of the reason that I don't have Surratt on my list is because I just fell in love so much with Omar Cooper, if that makes any sense. Just watching the Indiana tape,
Makes
and I'm
sense.
like,
Yeah.
whew. And I feel like I'm thankful that Surratt is on that team because he's kind of disguising Omar Cooper's, actual realistic ceiling. And that's going to keep his costs a little bit lower in Dynasty, I think. So he's kind of floating off people's radars. He's just a yak machine, dude. This guy runs hard after he makes the catch, but he's on your list here, so I want you to chat about him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you set me up perfectly, man. 6 foot, 204 pounds, very, very physical with the ball in his hands. I literally put physical yak player. He displays that contact balance that you like. I saw him take a bubble screen, stiff arm a dude into the grave in route to a touchdown. I've seen him catch over the middle of the field, stiff arm the linebacker that's trailing in coverage, stiff arm the safety, get hit immediately, spin, push, fighting for every yard, man. He looks like a running back with the ball in his hands. But again, him and Surratt switched roles this season. So what I liked about that, Chris, is it showed me alignment versatility. Here's a guy that throughout his career was asked to line up on the outside, and he was winning that way. And then this season, now he's out there winning in the slot. Big, like able to catch anything that's thrown in his direction and come up with the highlight catch. Omar Cooper Jr., man, had the best catch in college football this season against your Penn State Nittany Lions, man. In crunch time, game on the line. Mendoza put
I
it in the spot
know.
that it had to be, and he tapped them toes in there and won the game. I that's I don't want to say that's when I was first onto him because I remember him as a 4-star prospect coming in. Man, stuck with the program. He's a fun story, man. And I'm in the middle of my film watch for him right now. And he vaulted up my rankings. He was in my top 15, vaulted all the way up to 6. And I don't know if he's going to stop climbing, man. I'm getting pretty excited about this guy because he's the one that we're betting on the traits. If you're just looking simply at the production profile, while it's decent, it's not the best, but you watch the film with those catches and you see the physical traits, his route running, you start to see what could be a much better NFL player than he was as a collegiate prospect. So very, very excited about this dude, Omar Cooper Jr.
I completely agree. I love him. That's why he's firmly in my top 5. The more I watch him, the more I enjoy him. I feel like he's one of the more bulletproof prospects as far as he could land in any offense and produce not necessarily right away, but a decent amount and have a good role in a rotation. So that is why he is here at number 5 for me as we move on to our top 5s. And Chris Brazel is on your top 5. So spit some game at me.
Well, I mean, Chris Brazel, I talked a little bit about it, man. 6'5", legit route runner, toe drag swag. He's already really polished at this level, showing that boundary awareness and just the vertical tracking. He tracks the deep ball well with patience and concentration, and he can adjust his body mid-flight and take contact. Turn on the Georgia film, and you saw those outbreaking routes. You saw the intermediate work of the field, and then you saw the release that got him open immediately on a post route, severely underthrown ball by Joey Aguilar, and he was able to come back to the ball, palm it with one hand, contact bounce to stay upright from the defender that's there, easy walk-in touchdown for a big time play. And that stuff is all over his field. The ability to come back, make acrobatic catches, super exciting. He's got to put a little bit more functional mass though. We already talked about that wiry frame. I do have concerns, and that's going to be the biggest knock in his profile, but he looks like a pro to me. He's got NFL pedigree. You know, his father played in the NFL for a little bit too, and I believe some CFL as well, some Canadian football. Um, but so he has that bloodline in him, and I think a lot of people are typecasting him as this certain type of player. And really, it's helmet scouting is baked into there too. You hear Tennessee wide receiver, and you're like, oh no, I'm off on that, man. But scout the player, not the helmet, because he originally committed to Tulane, and he played at Tulane for a while before transferring. And man, he was running whip routes in the red zone. Is some things that be getting 6'5", man, dipping them hips, getting the corner to go that way, cutting it back outside, and it's just so much fun to watch. There's a lot of nuanced route running for a guy who's 6'5" and can win up top too. So I could talk about him all day, man. He's one of my
I
favorite
have to
players in this
completely
class.
agree with you, and I love that analysis. That was just great, you know. And I'm surprised you didn't mention that Tennessee has moved to a little bit more of a pro-ready, pro-style offense this
Yeah,
year compared to previous years. So don't necessarily knock him just for being a volunteer. There's a
yeah,
lot of reason to be excited about this guy, and we obviously both are. I know Mark Cooper Jr., I just talked about him. I love the guy. Oh, well, really, you did most of the talking, but he just feels like a
sorry.
pro style wide receiver. So that's why he's locked into my 5. And at 4, I had mentioned it before. I have Denzel Boston. I do just love this guy. You know, what it really comes down to for me is I feel like he's going to be a end zone, red zone magnet for a quarterback. And you're got your wide receivers that even the ones that produce a ton, you know, there's very few Nakuas or JSNs in the world. You can have a wide receiver 1 and win a championship and not have a guy who's putting up consistent wide receiver 1 weeks. So what do you want out of those guys? You don't necessarily expect 100 yards every game or 10 catches every game, but if you can get a touchdown every game, you're looking golden. You're happy that you got that guy in your starting lineup. And I feel like that's what Denzel Boston brings with his nice, strong, big man hands, as I mentioned before. I just feel like he's got that great catch radius. You know, he looks like a guy who can just grab whatever, pluck it out of the sky. We talked about his contested catches. There's not anybody who's going to get in his way, especially down deep, who's going to, you know, get him out of the way. So I'm looking for it. Looking forward to it. This is where the lack of caffeine starts to catch up to me. It's 11:23.
23 Eastern time for Chris, man. He's fading without the caffeine. I've talked a little bit about Casey Concepcion already, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. But my comp for him was Emmanuel Sanders. And it's similar frame, similar play style. They both had that alignment versatility, could play inside, can play outside, and both tough as nails at the catch point, right? A little underrated in that aspect, and just those strong hands to be able to catch over the middle of the field and take those big hits and get right back up and keep possession of the ball. There was a play, I've talked about this a little bit on some other shows. He beats press coverage with his route running, which he does a lot. Obviously, that's something that I really look for these college wide receivers is how do they handle press man coverage. And man, with his release package, he could get off the line. He can get separation. And then it was a vertical shot. Safety was coming down. He had already beat the corner, and he knew he was going to take a hit. But he tracked it over the shoulder, looked it in, brought it down, held on, and took the big hit from the safety, got right up, first down, big play. And I literally saw that exact play by Emmanuel Sanders when he played for my Denver Broncos against the Indianapolis Colts. You know, Manning put it right where he had to be, and he took a big time hit and just got right up. It was the first thing I thought of when I saw that play for Casey Concepcion, and I've been in ever since. And big time riser for me, man. He can win in a variety of ways. I already talked about his true breakout at NC State and some of the context behind some of his numbers there with developing rapport with the true freshman starting quarterback and CJ Bailey. And then, of course, Marcel Reed isn't exactly known as the best pocket passer type of quarterback. He's going to run out there and make some errant throws as well. But man, tape is littered with big time plays for this dude. And I've moved him up to number 4. And I've had dangerous visions of just moving him into that top 3, that same tier as the top 3, Chris. I haven't done it yet, but I said I've had dangerous visions of it, and it's getting really close for me.
I don't like that one bit.
Tell me why. Of course. Why?
I mean, I have him number 8, so you put him in top 3. That's we're gonna have problems. And I love these top 3, and I think there's a good reason that, you know, the top 3. There's 3 names, you know, if you've been following along here, that haven't been said by either of us. So I think there's a good reason for that. And when I know who your top 3 are, I don't like who you're going to bump. If you put Casey Concepcion in front of that, so not great. But I like an Emmanuel Sanders comp, though. You know,
I said it would be in the same tier. He was
yeah. I know.
It would be same tier. Calm down.
I do like Emmanuel Sanders, though. I think he was a great underrated receiver. He played for your Broncos. He played for my Steelers, even though I'm really more of an Eagles fan, stuck here in Pittsburgh. And he played for the Niners. And had a great career that I feel like people didn't appreciate. So anytime you can do that, go for it. Number 3, we're digressing at this point. You have Jordan Tyson at number 3. I have Carnell Tate at number 3. And the reason I have Carnell Tate at number 3, even though if you're a longtime listener of the Devy Dojo, I have been a big Carnell Tate fan, and you know my personal mantra is just draft the Ohio State wide receivers, is quite simply because the other two are better. The other two guys in front of him, I feel like are more bulletproof. I like Carnell Tate a lot. I think he has extremely smooth, I've used the word fluid before. He just looks fluid. I've always been higher on his route running, I think, than other people. He does get kind of same as I talked about a little bit with Brazel. Typecast is a bit more of a deep threat than anything, but I think he's got capability to do much more at the NFL level. However, when I look at Jordan Tyson and Mekhi Lemon, I feel like they have much more plug and play ability in most systems in any NFL offense. I feel like there's a lot more risk with Carnell Tate, so that's why he ends up at number 3. But I do think that there's a pretty massive ceiling there, and it's almost a shame in a way that he played with Jeremiah Smith because he's not getting the recognition that he's due because he's a fantastic receiver, so much fun to watch on film. And I'm sure that you will agree because you have my
yeah. The only thing I'll say about that, Chris, is you said it perfectly at the end. He's not going to have to compete with Jeremiah Smith in the NFL. So that's why projecting forward to the NFL, I've said a lot of times, I would not be surprised if Carnell Tate of this top 3 ends up having the best professional career because as you alluded to with his route running, I think he was asked to be a vertical complement to Jeremiah Smith a lot at Ohio State. But I think there's a lot more untapped there, working the intermediate levels of the field. Very savvy as a primary number 1 option, 6'3", who can run routes like that and is very an intelligent route runner too, meaning he's identifying the holes in the zone pre-snap. He knows where it's going to be. He knows when it's man coverage, he can see a safety coming down. He's able to run those option routes as well. So that's why I think he's a little higher for me. But Jordan Tyson, any of these top 3, I've said it's the same tier, and however you have them ranked 1, 2, or 3, I can't fault. And Jordan Tyson is somebody that who's my number 3 right here. Jordan Tyson is somebody that I was very high on for years now. I've really enjoyed his game. I talked about what you go through molds you, coming back from the litany of injuries that he's had. And truly, Chris, it's just the litany of injuries is the only reason I've moved him down to number 3. He's a decent route runner. He's a very good route runner. He has a tendency to kind of round off some stuff and rely on that athleticism. If you didn't know, his brother plays in the NBA, and he kind of high points the ball and has that like rebounding mentality going up for the ball. Sticky hands. He's clutch. There's a lot of things to like about his game, but really just the injuries are keeping him down for me. Just this season though, Chris, for your analytics, 3.3 yards per route run versus man and 2.18 versus zone. He can round off his routes at the top of the stem, like I said, but there's a lot to like, man. He's so good in run blocking too, and you could tell that Hines Ward was a really good positional coach for him because he kind of plays with a little bit of that physicality in the run game. And I think that that's something that it doesn't necessarily do anything for me for a fantasy perspective, but it's going to ensure that it keeps the coaches happy. And I think it fires up the team, and it's going to ensure that he's on the field at least. And that absolutely does matter. You can't take Jordan Tyson off the field because he's going to be pretty good blocking downfield for your run game as well. And you could just do so many things from an offensive perspective. So love Jordan Tyson, but let's move on to 1 and 2 here.
Absolutely. So I have Mekhi Lemon here. You have Carnell Tate here. And obviously we just talked a little bit about Carnell Tate, but one of the notes that I had that I didn't quite get to, he can make catches with guys draped on him like curtains. And that if that ain't true, man, he's got an 85% contested catch rate. So, I mean, he's great. I love him. The big 3 is called the big 3 for a reason. These guys are all extremely close. And I think every analyst you talk to is going to have him in some different order. So even though he's all the way down at itty bitty 3 there on my list, doesn't mean that I don't like him. I think this could change depending on draft capital and where they go and yada, yada, yada. But right now he's just a little bit behind Mekhi Lemon for me. We just talked about Carnell Tate, but feel free to jump in with any more if you want. Otherwise, I'll start spitting some Lemon game.
No, I'm just glad that you brought up the contested catch ability because I mean, it's some really good stuff. Go watch that tape. The game where Julian Sand threw it to him in the end zone with like 3 defenders around him, and he came down with it, threw his hat off or his helmet off, and like, man, that gets me fired up.
Absolutely, man. Fantastic year, especially with Julian Sand emerging as one of the top Devy quarterbacks as well. Makai Lemon, this is your team, USC. And I think we had kind of typecast him a little bit prior to this season as more of a slot guy in the NFL. And I think he might still be, primarily utilized out of the slot. But he has shown enough out of us this year that he's not just a slot guy. He can do it all. He can line up elsewhere. And he's got a big enough body that, people have comped him. I think even you have comped him to the sun god. But
Yes.
Big enough body that he could line up a little bit, line up all over the place. He's 5'11", 190 pounds. Absolute stud. Obviously had the Biletnikoff year, just been nothing but amazing, nothing short of amazing this season. I believe led all draft prospects in yards per route run with well over 3. He has just looked more complete than I could have expected coming into this season. And, credit to him, because it's not like Maava was good, but he wasn't fantastic. It wasn't like he was playing with, he wasn't playing with Cade Klubnik, but he wasn't playing with Fernando Mendoza either. So
I've talked so much about Makai Lemon. I'm a Trojan fan, so I was going to have great things to say about him. Runs again with a physicality, like a running back type mentality. And yeah, he's only 5'11", but dude is a dog, and size should only count against a wide receiver if they get bullied at the catch point. And Makai Lemon doesn't. You've seen it against Michigan, fading to the back of the end zone, getting up, one hand, defenders all around him. Against Illinois, like Iowa, that tape against Iowa was incredible towards the end of the season. He could do it all. He is primarily going to be a slot wide receiver, but like you said, he can light up out wide as well. Very efficient in his route running and the defensive manipulation in those routes. Everything that Makai Lemon does in his route running is intentional. And that's the thing that I loved about him. He has this sharp rocker step and strong pacing that allow him to create separation without that wasted movement. And that's what Amon-Ra St. Brown does. Very, very similar technique in the rocker step. It had me fired up again as another former Trojan. I'm like, man, I'm seeing Amon-Ra reincarnated right in front of my eyes. Except this one's going to be drafted in the first round, and he's going to be a top pick in your dynasty rookie drafts. There are some knocks, though, right? He really struggled against physical man press coverage. Bigger, stronger corners, they were able to disrupt his timing and really limit his separation when he's forced to operate outside consistently. And that's going to be his struggle at the next level. But I think if he gets with a creative play caller that can move him around like a Sean McVay, I don't know how that would work pairing with Puka Nacua, but I know that he would get schemed looks. I know that he'd probably thrive in an offense like that kind of West Coast style, the modern West Coast style, like the Shanahan trees and that. He needs to get a little better in run blocking if he is going to go in those systems. But man, he can win in a variety of ways. He's tougher than you'd think, man. And just with the ball in his hands, he looks like a running back. And a little bit of that physicality, I think, stems from his time having to play some defense as a true freshman when he had to play cornerback and he was strapping people up and then became our best wide receiver. So
yeah, I love that little nugget about him playing cornerback freshman year. That is wild. I don't think there's any chance that the Rams get him unless they trade up, right? Unless they have another pick already. But let's just hope he doesn't land somewhere god awful that won't use him, right? Moving on to our number one guys. If you haven't done the math already, obviously Makai Lemon is Dustin's number one guy, and my guy is Jordan Tyson. I just finished my write-up on him recently. Huge fan of this guy. 2024 was obviously his big breakout year. He had 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, one Big 12 newcomer of the year. This year, sort of like a down year, I guess you could say, but he still had 61 catches, 711 yards, and 8 touchdowns, and that was only in 9 games. So I feel like he's getting a little bit of knock for not producing another absolutely amazing year. But he also played half the season with a backup quarterback, and then it came out that Sam Levitt was even hurt since like October. or no, I guess he left the field on October. Since late September, he had been hurt. So he played like 3 games with an injured Sam Levitt. So realistically, he didn't have a quarterback at all this season. He still put up 61 catches and 711 yards, 8 touchdowns. I don't necessarily want to knock him for what happened this year. The underlying stats are still pretty good. The analytics, hashtag analytics are still pretty good. But for me, this is a purely dog metric tape analytics type vibes pick. I just love watching this guy go out there and make plays. If it's on the sideline, he's making catches. If he needs to do it with one hand, he's making catches. If he's got to jump up over a guy, he's making catches. He just seems like he can make a catch at any point all over the field. And I love that because that's going to translate to any NFL offense. Just put the ball in his zip code and he's jumping up there and getting it. For me, he's fairly clear at this point, number one. And I understand that I just talked about how there's a big 3, but you can't talk me off this guy because the dog metric is extremely, extremely high with Jordan Tyson.
Hey, I can't hate you for it. I told you, man, same tier, however you want to slot him. I can't fight you on it too hard. And I think when the talent is this close, right, the differentiating factor is really going to be landing spot. I mean, that's ultimately going to determine 1, 2, and 3 for me, I think. But purely as prospects, this is how we have it. So again, like I said, this process is very fluid. We reserve the right to adjust these rankings accordingly. But for now, Chris, that's going to do it for our current top 10 wide receivers for the 2026 rookie class. It's a deep group, and like always, it's going to be pretty fluid, like I said. And if you want the full scouting reports and complete breakdowns of this rookie class, then make sure to get the rookie guide, which drops again on March 9th. Make sure you're in the free Devy Dojo Discord. The link is going to be in the description of this video. That's where you'll get pre-sale access and be part of the bigger, deeper conversations around these players. We appreciate all of you for being here and being a part of the dojo. And next week, we're shifting to the ground game. We'll be unveiling our top 10 running backs in the 2026 rookie class. So we'll see you the next time at the dojo.